scalded by the desert sun, the waters of the Red Sea would cook most corals. These reefs have had to adapt to survive, just like the Arabian people. Over the last 2,000 years, this desert realm has sparked two eras of enlightenment, two golden ages. Just to survive in this desert is an accomplishment. Who would ever think that the seeds of knowledge could sprout here and grow? Only 80 years ago, most people in Arabia lived in tents or in houses of coral rock or mud. But in a matter of decades, all that changed. Saudi Arabia is now a nation of some 30 million people. The capital city of Riyadh and the holy city of Mecca have been transformed. A modern district has grown up around the Grand Mosque. Five times each day, Muslims around the world turn towards Mecca to pray. And in the busy coastal city of Jeddah, educational horizons are widening. Thanks to the wealth from the oil boom, Hamza is one of 80,000 Saudi Arabians studying abroad. He is a film student at DePaul University in Chicago.
I've lived in the US for 7 years, going to school, but I'm still really close to my brother Saleh. He usually wears the white thobe because it's part of tradition, and most men wear it every day. After 9/11, many of my friends in America get the idea that we're all extremists, and we're not. As my mom says, we're not perfect, but we've had a glorious past, and I can't wait to travel around the country and make a film about who we are and how we got here. My first stop was the old section of my hometown, Jeddah. houses here haven't changed much since I was a kid. But it's amazing. All my country is progressing so quickly. Like many other religions and cultures, we're trying to balance the old and the new, tradition and progress. It's important to maintain the old values. And I'd like to capture some of that balance on video. The freedom to change is really important to my generation. The Arabian Peninsula is not all sand. We have mountains, valleys, and even volcanoes. I headed into the desert to document a vanishing way of life. Just like the American cowboy, the Bedouin is a cultural hero.
كم سنة ليك بتدرب؟ بتدرب يعني تدريبا ما بسيط. هو ايش بيسوي الحين؟ ايش بيحاول يهرب منك ولا؟
To survive out here, the Bedouin had to live by a strict code of honor based on fierce family loyalty, hospitality, and trust. A true Bedouin kept his word and passed all these values on to his kids and to us.
من الديرة، اي نعم، هي الديرة، الديرة اللي احنا معها كذا ما حيطيح الحين. متأكد.
They say camels are sweet-natured, unless they're not. Camels are designed for the desert. They have an extra row of lashes for protection, just like sunglasses, and a third eyelid that works like a windshield wiper. One thing I never expected to see here was a bunch of baboons. But I guess it makes sense. Most of our animals originated in Africa.
"25 million years ago, when the Red Sea formed, it trapped animals that were originally African. As lush vegetation vanished and Arabia turned to desert, these animals adapted.
I went looking for more clues to our past. Underwater. we only found iron shipwrecks. But that's what my guide, Hussam, looks for. Every time we'd find a modern-day ship, we would find an ancient one too, because they hit the same reef. A long time ago, wooden ships carried all kinds of things, such as ceramic jugs filled with olive oil. Archaeologists are continuing to find undamaged artifacts, like this ancient amphora. Even tiny broken pieces can speak worlds. All I found were old pottery fragments. But they led me to a civilization that was completely new to me. Where were they from? I contacted the leading archaeologist in Arabia, Dr. Dayfullah Talhi.
And I think the secrets of Madain Saleh, the secrets of the Nabateans, lie underneath the settlement area.
Dr. Talhi couldn't date my fragment, but he did something better. He took me to his research site in the desert.
نجوم الفضاء في طمأني وسلام زدي عزا ودارا يرعاك رب السماء يرعاك رب السماء.
Dr. Talhi studies the early settlers of this region, the Nabateans. The Nabateans created the first Arabian Golden Age 2,000 years ago. The first thing you need to have a Golden Age is wealth.
The source of the Nabateans' fabulous wealth seems unlikely. Their huge fortunes literally grew on trees, boswellia trees. The bark oozes the sap needed to make precious frankincense, the same frankincense mentioned in the Bible. The Nabatean traders started at the southern tip of the Arabian Peninsula and carried frankincense north. From there, the frankincense was shipped to cities throughout the vast Roman Empire. At that time, the Romans worshipped over a dozen gods in thousands of temples, each perfumed with precious frankincense, up to 3,000 tons a year. And the Nabateans controlled every ounce. When a trader approached a Bedouin camp, he faced a crucial question: friend or foe? The answer could be a matter of life or death. Hospitality had a purpose. This Bedouin was collecting the most valuable trade good of all: information. Because many Bedouins died in battle, women outnumbered men. The code of honor called for modesty. It was a tribe's duty to protect widows. Even today, once you make friends with an Arab, you're friends for life. Only the luckiest traders made it to the Mediterranean to sell their precious cargo of frankincense. Many centuries after its decline, the outside world had nearly forgotten this ancient kingdom. Until the late 1800s, the era of great exploration by Europeans. Explorers knew about the spectacular rock city of Petra. But the other main Nabatean city remained a secret. Arabia at the time was hidden behind a veil of mystery, off limits to foreign travelers. And the Arabian deserts were deadly, sweltering hot and without water, nearly impenetrable. Huge storms of dust and sand could last for several days and swallow travelers without a trace. But finally, explorers found the abandoned city of Madain Saleh. Here, 130 elaborate tombs were carved by the Nabateans into tall sandstone cliffs. But how did these isolated nomads become master stonemasons? From ancient coins early archaeologists found at the site, we know that the Nabateans had frequent contact with some of the best architects in the world, the Greeks and the Romans. The work of these early archaeologists was not easy. Centuries of decay pervaded the tombs.
شايف هنا يا حمزة هذه ضربات الإزميل هذه كانت تستخدم وقت النحت.
Inside this tomb, notches were carved right into the rock walls. Each one is a coffin. The Nabateans helped develop the script that became the modern Arabic alphabet. Frankincense made this one of the richest kingdoms on earth. But when the Romans adopted Christianity and worshipped only one god, they no longer needed temples for 12 gods. The demand for frankincense collapsed. And so did the golden age of the Nabateans.
دكتور وانا نجيب اكثر كمان. لا فلوني ردي الرمله بس. امشي امشي.
الله عليك الله عليك الكل مفتون بعينيك. الله عليك الله عليك الكل مفتون بعينيك. لكن أنا غيرهم لكن أنا غيرهم لكن أنا غيرهم لكن أنا غيرهم وأنت لو تبي روحي.
Dr. Al-Talhi told me that after centuries of decline, Arabia was about to be reawakened by something powerful. The divine revelations of Prophet Muhammad, who inspired the whole region with a thirst for knowledge.
وايضا مساحه البيت يعتبر اكبر من غيره من المنازل الاخرى.
Muhammad was born in Mecca around the year 570. But he lived much of his life here in the city of Medina. The Prophet's mosque in Medina is huge. Yet you can almost feel his presence here. The Quran, our holy book, contains God's revelations to the Prophet Muhammad in Arabic. Just like Christians and Jews, Muslims believe in one God, the God of Abraham. And we also revere the biblical prophets, Abraham, Moses, and Jesus.
The Quran urged followers to read and gather knowledge. This simple instruction to understand the world had a huge impact and led to a second golden age. The tribes were unified by their belief in one God. Once they stopped fighting each other, they became a potent force. They conquered more territory than the Romans in about half the time. While much of Europe lapsed into its dark age, Islamic scholars translated the works of the ancient Greeks and Hindus. The first seed of the Golden Age was sown on Arabian soil. Soon the new thinking spread from Persia to Spain, eventually reaching India and Indonesia. By weaving together many ideas, Islamic scholars came up with algebra. The foundation of science was strengthened when Ibn al-Haytham came along. His theories of gravity and momentum preceded Isaac Newton's work by 700 years. In over 200 books, he revolutionized physics and optics.
Ibn al-Haytham built the world's first camera obscura. He was the first to explain how the eye sees. And his pioneering work in optics led to telescopes and cameras like mine.
Ibn al-Haytham conducted experiments to find out how things really work. He has been called the father of the scientific method. In the world's first universities, hundreds of scholars explored the boundaries of science. After Jabir ibn Hayyan cooked up chemistry, Abu Rayhan Muhammad ibn Ahmad al-Bayruni calculated the circumference of the Earth with great precision. These innovative scholars were the catalyst that ignited the European Renaissance centuries later. There has never been anything quite like this golden age of Islam, which lit up 3 continents for 800 years and changed our understanding of the world. But invading armies and dwindling trade chipped away at the empire and led to the slow decline of the Golden Age. When the empire collapsed, Arabia lapsed into an age of stagnant isolation. Well into the early 1900s, Arabia was a patchwork of quarreling tribes. But one man changed all that. His name was Abdulaziz ibn Saud. With a skillful blend of force and diplomacy, Abdulaziz united all the towns and tribal lands and created the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, named for his own family. In the 1930s, when the new king invited the Americans to explore for oil, they found the largest deposits on Earth, 25% of the world's reserves. After only 13 years as king, Abdulaziz met with President Franklin D. Roosevelt and formed an alliance that endures to this day.
Saudi Arabia to a conference with President Roosevelt. The Saudi Arabian king and American president discuss mutual problems of trade and relations with Saudi Arabia.
Near Riyadh, I visited the king's ancestral village as he was being restored. I felt the weight of history in this mud palace. But in the 50 years that King Abdulaziz has been gone, a lot of things have changed. Nearby in our capital of Riyadh, the old ways are getting increasingly comfortable with the new. The discovery of oil changed not just Arabia's economy, but the economic balance of the entire world. Today, oil is our frankincense, and it gives us a chance to make education our first priority, much like it was centuries ago. Recently, King Abdullah started a revolutionary university of science with the 6th largest endowment in the world. When I left for the US 7 years ago, this was unthinkable. I photographed the king at the dedication ceremony where he introduced the faculty, the best and the brightest from all around the world. This university will be a think tank of creativity and innovation. It will emulate the spirit of the Islamic golden age of science, drawing students from all over the Middle East and around the world. Men and women will study and carry out research side by side. It's a huge leap forward.
Education is a source of hope for many Saudi women. Like the celebrated poet, Niama Nawab.
Poetry here harkens back to our deep-rooted oral traditions. Because Bedouins moved from grazing area to grazing area, they couldn't carry books with them. So our stories and history were memorized and often told through poetry.
Ni'ma loves horses. They inspire her to ride. The Arabian horse is one of the oldest breeds on earth.
With their small noses and arching tails, they're magnificent creatures.
Women here are balancing the old and the new. Over the years, tribal ways of life imposed restrictions on women. As Nima can tell you, 60 years ago, women rarely attended school here. But today, more women than men earn college degrees. We've seen quite a lot of progress. The king, for example, has recently promoted women to higher levels of his government. But for some, the changes are too slow.
We follow a strict code of conduct, especially in public, when we're expected to convey our modesty by wearing an outer cloak known as the abaya. But we have more serious and vital issues to address.
Until recently, women were not able to travel or study without gaining male consent.
While we have a long way to go as women, what gives us hope is our faith.
Muslims don't worship idols or objects. We only worship God. We pray directly to Him, and it's not through a priest or anyone. Near Mecca, this huge tent city offers hospitality to pilgrims from 160 nations.
For 3 days, 3 million pilgrims converge on Mecca to reaffirm their faith during the holy rite known as the Hajj. It's a lifelong dream for many Muslims. Here, religion is a family affair. The Quran states that one time in our lives we should all try to perform the Hajj. It is by far the largest annual gathering of people in the world.
Mecca is the heart of Islam. Over 1 billion people all across the world turn to face this spot 5 times a day when they pray. The Hajj opened me up to all my fellow Muslims and worshippers. It just made me more accepting of them and their ideas.
We're told that our sins are forgiven during the Hajj, so we come out reborn. Here, where the temperature sometimes soars above 120 degrees, shade can feel like the soothing hand of God. For Muslims, the Kaaba or the Cube is a holy magnet, the very first house of God. Muslims believe it was built by Abraham, patriarch of the 3 religions, Muslim, Christian, and Jewish.
Ni'mah has written something that I really love. It says that we're all sons and daughters of Adam, that the 3 faiths are interlinked.
We walk around the Kaaba 7 times, and we become one with all the human beings around us.
We touch the Kaaba because it's the house of God, and we feel close to Him when we touch it. It's our touchstone.
We feel the flow of the earth's celestial turning around the sun. It's a never-ending circle that's continued through the centuries. Performing the Hajj helps us feel that we're part of one community, the human community. We're all one.
Surrounded by desert, the corals of the Red Sea have had to adapt to survive, just like the people of Arabia.
I left Mecca and headed home to Jeddah. After 1 month of filming, I was really struck by the relaxed spirit of my hometown. I love it. Ni'ma taught me that words matter, that ideas can change the culture. Many women agree with Ni'ma, including my mom. I set out on this journey to discover who we are and how we got here. I came away inspired by the Nabateans. They were able to build great things out of nothing. To survive in the desert, families had to be really close with each other. And we're still that way today. I asked my dad for advice on my film, because that's how we do things. All decisions are family decisions. The strength of our culture is our family. And from this strength, we'll build our future.
It's much too soon to say if a third golden age could be happening here. The recent opening of the new University of Science and Technology is just a first step. But 4 more major research centers are soon coming online. Whole communities devoted entirely to learning and the exploration of ideas.
The Prophet Muhammad encouraged people to learn, gather knowledge, and explore the world. I'm starting to see that same spirit take hold here. And that, more than anything else, gives me hope. Twice, our ancestors built golden ages. And we can too.